Welcome to Tempdrop Insights, where we give you tips and information to help you on your fertility charting journey. Today we're going to briefly discuss anovulation, or a lack of ovulation. Some women experience cycle charts where they don't see evidence that they have successfully ovulated. When they're tracking their temperatures, they don't see a rise to a higher range of temperatures, which then lasts until their next bleed or their next period. After a time, a bleed can occur. Does this signal the start of a new cycle? Is this an anovulatory cycle? Not necessarily. To understand why, we need to have a look at some different types of bleeds that can happen. The first is menstruation, or better known as a true period. This is the shedding of the uterine lining that's built up and stabilised after ovulation occurs. It usually happens about 2 weeks after the ovulation event. Now this bleeding signals the start of a new cycle. Ovulation has been successful, and now this shedding of the lining signals that the whole process will start again, building up to the next ovulation event. Next, we're going to take a look at intermenstrual bleeding. Now this is any bleeding that occurs between true periods or true menstrual events. These types of bleeds commonly occur because of hormonal imbalance. Things aren't quite going smoothly enough to successfully trigger ovulation. Then the body can respond with this bleed. The uterine lining isn't stabilising and growing properly as it should. This type of bleeding is commonly known as breakthrough or withdrawal bleeding. Intermenstrual bleeding doesn't signal the start of a new cycle. Ovulation hasn't happened, and it's ovulation that dictates when the process will start over again. In our example chart, ovarian hormone activity was happening, as indicated by these patches of fertile cervical mucus. The problem is, though, there wasn't enough of the right amounts of hormones at the right time to ovulate successfully. Eventually, she's had a few days of this intermenstrual or breakthrough bleeding. So this helps us to understand that this bleed that follows a phase of anovulation or lack of ovulation is not a true menstruation. It's not a true period. This cycle hasn't ended yet. Remember, a new cycle is always dependent on ovulation. When charting, this is really important to understand, and here's why. If you end your chart here at the breakthrough or this intermenstrual bleed, it can cause confusion. Ovulation can come soon after the bleeding. The body's still trying, those hormones are still active behind the scenes. So if we break or end this chart at the start of the bleed, we might now think that we've ovulated early, when in fact we've actually ovulated very, very late. This long anovulatory phase and bleed are all still part of the follicular phase of the same cycle. So what's the takeaway? If you experience a bleed after a phase of anovulation or lack of ovulation, it doesn't signal the start of a new cycle. The term anovulatory cycle is actually quite misleading. You're still in a follicular phase. Ovulation hasn't happened yet. So if you choose not to break your chart at that point, you'll be in a better position to see the overall picture when ovulation does finally occur.